I don't know if you remember, but it was really hard to get harsh comments from the German government about NSA. So everybody was like, keep cool. Also, when our chancellor traveled to the US, she kept cool. There was one exception, and he said, if only 2/3 of what Edward Snowden brings forward is true, then I conclude the USA act without measure. This brave man is our Federal Minister for the Interior. And so please welcome Thomas de Maizière.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for this nice introduction. The description of bravery is not mine, but nevertheless, you can judge it if you like. Well, just as Facebook and Twitter are no longer new media, so is the digital revolution no longer a new phenomenon. However, policymakers and society are still trying to understand all the ramifications of the digital transformation. The crucial question is, what does this changes mean for our future lives and our work, for our society and our economy, and what does it mean for the role of politics? The Berlin Web Week offers many answers to this question. I'm glad to take part in this decision, both in the political arena and here at the Berlin Web Week, although it's the closing session, at least for today. Although it goes along with my office as Minister of the Interior, or in American terms of view, you could better describe it as Minister for Homeland Affairs, to think and to talk about issues of protection and security. I don't want to limit myself to these issues. I would first like to talk about the opportunities that digital technologies offer. Opportunities for individuals and for society, for government, and for private enterprise, especially startups and small and medium-sized companies. The digital economy is a market of the future and with a future. It should and must remain so. Both government and the business sectors share the goal of creating opportunities for innovation and development. Our attitudes toward digital technology as individuals and society are marked by certain tensions. To name only three. Number one, many of us want to use more and more online services and the plenty of promising opportunities of the World Wide Web. But at the same time, we worry about losing control of our personal data. Number two, we all are aware of the benefits of global networks, but at the same time, we have concerns the German and European data protection standards will be watered down. And number three, many of you perhaps generally don't want government to be involved. But at the same time, you do want government to look after your interests, especially when it comes to protecting our personal data. Ladies and gentlemen, taking advantage of the freedom offered by the internet and the digital world is first of all a matter for responsible individuals, not an object of governmental regulation. Government is only one of many actors in the digital world, but it nevertheless does have an important role. We must not create impossible expectations, but we shouldn't hesitate to step in and take on our responsibility where appropriate and effective. Government can and must do more to deal with the challenges of the digital transformation. This puts policymakers under pressure to act quickly. We have to understand and evaluate new developments and often make decisions that will set the course for the future while keeping pace with rapid technological change. And we have to find the right balance between growth and consolidation, between security and freedom, between national regulation and international impact. This is a highly sensitive area, both for the expert community and for issues of protection and security. Digitization is not only a mega issue, but also a meta issue. We can see this from the example of critical infrastructure protection. IT infrastructure is not like systems to supply water or electricity. Almost all critical infrastructures is operated using IT systems. So IT is a kind of a meta, or if I may use this word, infrastructure. IT issues are always central because they today affect everyone and everything. The days when a company's IT department was a separate unit are long gone. This is why the new German federal government adopted its digital agenda, in which all of the federal ministries play a part. We are not so bold as to try to set the agenda for digital developments. The digital agenda of the German government is rather our to-do list, our plan for what we in government can and should do to have a positive influence on digital trends. I see three functions for government when it comes to the internet. First, ensuring freedom and balance. Network use and internet access must not be restricted. The internet is a place for free expression and thus enjoys special protection. There is an old principle. My freedom ends where it encroaches on the freedom of others. This is certainly also true, or should be true, for the digital life. In case of conflict, thus, only government can set a balance. Internet use must not be governed by giant private providers. Second, ensuring protection and provision. Government shares the responsibility for the internet as infrastructure which has to function reliably and is available to all. This also includes protecting the internet as the key critical infrastructure of our time. This means that government has to define the rules for the secure operation of critical infrastructure by private parties. And third, ensuring supply and innovation. One task of government is to create a climate favorable to innovation and to promote development. For example, of government services for citizens. We are already doing this today at national and the European level, but we could be better. And we will increase our involvement. Over the next 4 years, we want to make Germany the leader in digital technology in Europe. And we want to assert Europe's position at the center of digital technology. I believe it would be good for the internet if, even in tomorrow's digital world, old Europe continued to provide new ideas for human progress and security. To do so, we must pursue a digital policy that is smart and far-sighted. We will therefore make sure our projects are closely coordinated with measures at European and international level. This applies, for instance, equally to cybersecurity, privacy protection, and net neutrality. These three functions show that government has an important responsibility in shaping our digital future. I know that many of you perhaps will not chime in with this praise of government's tasks and possibilities. But you don't have to. We also want to take a pragmatic approach to a cooperation between government and the private sector. One option for this kind of cooperation is, for example, what we call co-regulation. Government sets the framework, and companies with the necessary technical expertise fill in the details for their specific sector. The advantages of this approach can be seen in IT security and data protection, for example. Government defines minimum standards for all to meet, or red lines that no one should cross. The affected companies specify these requirements within the given framework. This kind of approach allows us to remain flexible and respond to technical developments and specific risks. At the same time, it brings greater clarity and legal certainty for both consumers and companies. The law remains open to development and innovation. It is certainly not up to the government to identify which areas have economical potential. This is where we need the private sector and its expertise. This is where we need digital natives like many of you. This requires interest and know-how, as well as the commitment and corporate responsibility. The Internet does not belong to the government or the citizens alone. The Internet is a public space, and as all public spaces, it should be used by all. But like every public space, it needs rules, orientation, and limits on use. Let us create such spaces together, not only this week, but for the coming years and decades, and not only in Germany. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So there was a lot of discussion on this conference in the last 2 days about how we could get a new trust in our digital infrastructure. You talked about a framework. So what could be a measure to get back this trust into our IT infrastructure?
Was this a report or a question?
No.
A question?
No. Make suggestions. I have suggestions for you. So for example, you could have a law established that secure encryption is built in by law in all of our basic products.
Well,
European technology, by the way. Would that be interesting?
Well, trust is an interesting word. And if you go outside of politics, you would never expect trust as a political type of criterion. Although we have the word trust also in credit, in loans, Kredit in Deutsch. This means trust. And this is a fundamental issue for banking systems. And we made the experience what can happen if we underestimate the price of trust. So trust is a price for the Internet and for the common user as well. But my point of view is this is not only a task or a challenge for the state, for politics. It's a question for all of us. There is a German word, I don't know the English expression, blindes Vertrauen. So if you, this is not effective for using the Internet. You cannot criticize the government for data retention or for what the NSA perhaps is doing, and at the same time give your personal profiling to private companies like McDonald's or others. You need a responsible approach to the Internet by the users, number one. And then our role is to at least in the probably only there and perhaps at least in the field of critical infrastructure. There, it's a political task to describe what is a secure and safe use of critical infrastructure, and this will create trust for users and economic trust and planning economic investments for the future for the economy.
But what could be measures to get this trust? So again, what could we do?
Well, transparency is important.
So how about supporting open source projects?
Of course, well, open source projects, you can promote it, you can use it, but you can misuse open sources as well. So I think probably it is, you cannot promise for all the users total security and safety in the World Wide Web. So, but this is probably a promise that nobody could give. But you can make a great effort in Germany and Europe that you create and regulate a space where you more or less can trust that the traffic there is quite secure and safe.
Okay. Since you're here, may I ask you an actual question? So there's this investigation committee about the NSA, and it seems to be really hard for the committee to get all the information they need to sort out things. Why is it so hard for the government to provide this information?
Well, we will give these informations.
Okay.
We will support this investigation committee. There's no doubt about it.
And you give them all the data?
Well, but we are, first of all, dependent, and this is the main task of this investigation committee, is how to get information from America.
Okay.
And there we are dependent on what they are doing, number one. So then, it's a question of investigate to a certain extent what services are doing, especially when they cooperate internationally. And Germany will behave like all other countries, that services are doing what they have to do on a legal basis, but normally not public. That is what they're doing. So we have to find a way that the investigation committee can get the information they need, and our task is that we are not going to damage the task and the challenge of the services, including the international cooperation. And we have to find a way to solve these two problems.
Okay, so you will find a way to provide the information for a selected group maybe or something, so Parliament can have a...
This will be part of the discussion, and I'm optimistic that we will find a way.
Good news.
Well, but this is the case for all investigations committee. But then there is one line, and this is mixed up a bit in the German discussion in the last days. The legal framework for investigation committees is the following. They can investigate what they want up to a point. And the point is where the decision was made, we want to investigate the past. An investigation committee is not allowed to ask for what they want in the running and the actual negotiations, for example, with America.
So
there's a timeline, there is a Redaktionsschluss, as we could say.
I know that, yeah.
Yeah, you know that?
Yeah.
And beyond that, this is not the task and the possibility for the investigation committee. Of course, we will have discussions what is actual actual management of the government and what is the role of government in the past. There is, of course, this is not a strict line, this is for sure, but the actual negotiations between Germany and America is not part of the task of the investigation committee.
So there's still a negotiation concerning a no-spy agreement?
Well, these negotiations are not for the public, unfortunately.
But if they are finished, you could provide
I cannot report that, but as you know, and it was reported quite well during the visit of the Chancellor in America, that the expectations for such a no-spy agreement is low, but we will have a constructive cyber dialogue on the whole field, not only on security issues between America and Germany. And I will be part of this dialogue.
I said in the beginning that you're a brave man because you said something I never heard from a top member of the German government. So last question, what do you think about Edward?
You should listen better.
Yeah, maybe. I'm trying hard to listen to my government. What do you think about Edward Snowden? Last question. Is he a hero, or is he a runner down, or is he crazy, or is he a very important person from your point of view? We have time.
Well, I have to leave.
So,
well, diplomatic answer would be you should not over us.
No.
Yeah. Because we are just the two of us.
Just us. It's just us.
Well, his role should, of course, not be underestimated, not overestimated. He said he's not more the owner of the informations. I think the time and the content of what we read now in the papers is a mixture between information from him and others, well mixtured, not only by him. His role from a historical point of view cannot be reflected now, and he definitely, in my point of view, is not a hero. But at least Snowden and perhaps WikiLeaks in a similar but in another way is a, as we say in German, I don't know the English word, Kristallisationspunkt. So would you translate that?
Crystallization point?
A point of crystallization for a debate, for the necessity to be sensitive on cybersecurity. At least the effect of what he did is of utmost importance. This was diplomatic and brave? No, more diplomatic.
Very diplomatic,
okay.
But also a little brave. So thank you very much,
okay.
Minister.
Okay.
Thank you so much.